What I'm going to demonstrate now is making a glass turtle. It could be any creature that you want. Really what I'm going to try and demonstrate is how to properly make welds, how to fuse two pieces of glass together, especially when you're working with something that's not perfectly centered. I have a soft glass rod that is about 8.5 millimeters in diameter in my hand. This will be the body. I'm using a thicker rod simply because it will speed the process up. To put the appendages on, I'm going to use a segment of 5 millimeter rod. So the first thing I'm trying to do right now is make a gather. And again, because this is 8.5 millimeter soft glass, it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but it'll be fine. I'll probably speed this up a little bit at this point, so that way you don't have to watch me just spin the glass around to make a gather. Okay, I've got a gather of glass that's a decent size. I used my cheese cutter to squish it to build up that mass. It's not a perfect sphere, not even close, but that's okay because when I squish it for the body of the turtle, I'll be able to work all of that out. Again, I could spend more time at this stage heating it up, but since this is just a demo, I want to move this along. So I take this, I squeeze it, there we go. And for what I'm trying to do right now, this will be perfectly sufficient. The body of the turtle, I'm going to make these the back legs, maybe put a little tail there, put some front legs, and go from there. So my turtle is going to be a little awkward. So now what I want to do is I've got a 5 millimeter rod in my right hand. I'm heating up the end of it to get it molten, and I'm heating up just the very edge of the backside of the turtle so that it is going to be hot enough. It's going to be molten. There we go. I touch these two together. Now at this point, what I have is probably closer to a cold seal than a hot seal. So I want to leave it in the flame a little bit and just kind of work it back and forth like this. So these two pieces of glass have enough heat to flow together. So now, drawing my rod away from the body of the turtle, I'm just going to let the glass kind of flow down. Just a little wiggle. And that will be one of the turtle legs. Okay. It's important to keep some heat on the base, the body of the turtle, so it doesn't crack. And also understand that you can come back to the legs at any point, add more glass, remove more glass, that's perfectly fine. Now, at this point, I could do one of two things. I could go in there and do what I'm doing right now, or I could switch hands. If you feel more comfortable switching hands, that's perfectly fine. So I want to get this hot. I want to try and keep this symmetrical. Now it's okay when you stick these together, if it's not a perfect hot seal, just add enough heat and it will flow together. I should say the two pieces of glass will flow together, becoming one. And so now I want to do the same thing, kind of moving this in a way that'll hopefully be easier for the camera to see, where I'm going to now remove my punty that I've been using to make the legs. And here I've added way too much glass, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here, I'm going to grab that, remove some of it, and heat this, condense it back down. I'm swinging it around so I can look at it from the back, see how it's doing. Again, these two legs are not identical at this stage, but that's okay, because what I can do is I can come back later on and either add or remove glass. But I've got essentially the start of it. I could do two things right now. Also, I do need to clean up this rod or replace it. So I've got another rod that I can use that doesn't have as much junk on it to make the front legs. And I should mention at this point, there are two ways to approach this. I can put the front legs on right now, or I can wait. But I'm going to go ahead and just put the front legs on, just so I know where they're going to end up. And if I need to make any adjustments, I can do that a little bit later. Good welds. If the legs of the turtle are not properly welded, they'll break off. So even if they don't look good at this stage, you can always add or remove glass. But if your weld to the body is a cold seal, then it's going to break. Doesn't matter how good it looks. It's gonna be a problem. So what I'm doing right now is I'm adding more heat to the front of the turtle to, again, make sure that those legs that I just added are properly welded there. And I am giving the whole thing some heat. So at this stage, I can see I have turtle legs, 4 of them. They're attached more or less the way I like. And again, I can add more glass. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the tail, but the thing about the tail is that I am not going to finish the tail. I'm going to make the connection. That way I can use the rod for the tail as a puntee, and then I can shape the head. So right now, again, you need to make a hot seal. So I want the back end of the turtle to be hot. I've got this molten blob waiting. Once I think I'm at the right temperature. So I touch that, get that attached. So now what I'm going to do, I want to come out, is rather than worry about shaping the tail, I want to make sure that, again, I have a good weld here. Get this area really hot, but not so hot that it's out of control. Pushing a little bit, and I'm going to pull just a bit, kind of straighten that out. There we go. I've got a little bulge on there that I don't want, but I can clean that up at the very end. I'm giving it a moment to cool down, but I don't want it so cold that it's going to crack, so I'm holding it about an inch from that blue cone of the flame. That will allow it to cool down, but shouldn't cause any cracking. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to form the head of the turtle. And now, of course, this does not look like a turtle head. It's not rounded. But what I'm going to do once I get this off, is now I'm going to gather it back up. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to heat it and rotate and heat it and rotate until I've got something that will pass for the head of a turtle. Oh yeah, the other thing you can do at this point, if you really, really want to sell it, that it's a turtle, you can try and give it some eyes. Trying to make a cold seal, but I made my cold seal a little bit too cold, so it didn't stick. Okay, it's not a very good cold seal. Hopefully it will do the job. And I can always remove any extra glass later on. So now I want to make this into a little bit of a tail. So I'm coming back to the back end, heating this. And you will find, because again of how broad the flame can be with just a standard Bunsen burner, that it will take more time, a little bit more practice if you want to do some fine detail work like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take that whole mess of glass and essentially turn it into a gather. And I could use a glass rod to pick this out, but I'm actually going to use my tweezers first to remove some of it. Now, if you want the body of your critter to be a little bit longer, what you can do at this point is heat it in the center and then pull, either using a cold seal or a hot seal, to kind of stretch it out a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to make some adjustments as far as like the position of the legs, like this what would be the one of the back legs. I'm going to remove a little bit of glass, just a little bit, make that closer to the other one. And now I have to, once you've distorted it, because of removing the glass, well then you got to heat it back up. So that's why you want to try and keep these adjustments to a minimum. Okay, so at this point I'm going to remove the cold seal punty. Normally I would do this on the other plate, but hopefully you'll be able to see this on the camera. Alright, so heat this up. There it goes. And I do want to fire polish the front because of that cold seal. Now, if I wanted to, I could punty up again to the turtle and make additional adjustments. In other words, of the eyeballs, the legs, any other aspect of it. But I'll let this cool down and then we can take a look at it. So how did I do? Well, it's something. Again, in this case, the aesthetics aren't what we're trying to do. The legs, the tail, the parts that I fused on, The welds are reasonable. They're not perfect, but they certainly are acceptable. One of the things I probably should have mentioned, like the eyeballs, you have to make sure that you heat them enough so they are hot seals, not cold seals. They'll break off as well. But you can see, again, the penny is for scale. So a little turtle or other critter about the size of a penny or thereabouts is a really good way to pick up those fundamentals of working with the hot glass. Because again, like the little tail, remember that was not part of the original body, and it was very different during the other operations. And then at the end, I cleaned it up quite a bit. Same with the head and just the legs in general. Like right here, I've got this little blob of glass under the body. If I really cared while I was working, I could have taken some tweezers and pinch those off. There's a little blob also kind of making, I guess a nose or a tongue in the front that I could have removed as well. But again, this was not the purpose for the demonstration. It was really about learning those fundamentals of lampworking, of how you can fuse two pieces of glass together and make something. And that will definitely pay off when you're trying to make something a lot more important. Now, again, the whole purpose of making the turtle is that it's one of these exercises where you put a lot of different skills together. You have to make a gather, you have to squish that gather, you have to make hot seals, and you have to make cold seals. So doing all of those together is a very worthwhile endeavor, and then you can apply it to whatever other projects you want. And the real key is, of course, you make one turtle, see how it comes out, then make a second, a third, a fourth, and then compare them all. Obviously, if you're just doing this as a one-day activity, you don't have that luxury of practice. But that is the general idea behind this exercise.